How do you handle the running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends in your FFPC rookie drafts that are coming up in just a few weeks with the NFL draft on the horizon? What do you do with some of the veterans that could be exploited for big-time value right now in your FFPC Dino Leagues? And what is the proper way to ascend your FFPC Dynasty Leagues into dominance in 2025? We've got a great show for you. Kyle Pollock, the FFPC multi-league champ, is here tonight. Ferrell Elliott is here. We've got a great show for you. My name is Eric Balkman. I'm your slightly above average host. Stick around. Your high stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Hi, hello, and welcome to the April 4th, 2025 edition of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. Oh my goodness, do we have a great show for you tonight. My name is Eric Balkman. You know me from the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show on the Better Sports Network. You know me from the FFPC, myffpc.com, the Fantasy Football Players Championship, and of course on X at Eric Balkman. Tonight, we are going to be talking about everything that is leading up to the NFL draft, everything that is leading up to fantasy football dominance in your FFPC Dynasty Leagues, and of course, everything going on in redraft leagues as well. Speaking of redraft leagues, if you are looking to exploit the stuff we're talking about tonight in your FFPC Never Too Early Best Ball League, check out the Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament and the Never Too Early Best Ball Superflex Tournament over at myffpc.com. $40,000 and $10,000 grand prizes, respectively, in that. You can join for $125 or $35. Those tournaments have been going on since January. They will run until April 24th, which is 20 days from now. So you have less than 3 weeks to register for those tournaments. They will conclude on April 24th prior to the NFL draft starting in glorious Green Bay, Wisconsin, which I am looking forward to. Drafts are available at the moment. 30-second, 60-second, 2-hour, and 6-hour clocks. myffpc.com is where to go for that. As long as you're there, pick up one of the dynasty teams we have left. There are not a lot. I think back to a month ago when we had 1,000+ dynasty leagues available for orphans. Not the case anymore. We have less than 300, probably closer to 200 at this point. Entry fees normally range from $77 all the way up to $5,000. A lot of those teams have been discounted, some to $1. So you can literally pick up a team for basically free in 2025 and manage that team to greatness and win a title for just $1 right now. All the FFPC Dynasty Leagues that have been going on right now, 15 plus years, 1,800 plus leagues, not a single one has ever folded. So if you're looking to play in the FFPC and you want to play Dynasty, you know you're in it for the long haul. You don't have to worry about your league folding. myffpc.com. The FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament is going strong right now, both with live and slow drafts. This is the former Football Guys Players Championship, the former Fantasy Pros Championship. It is now the Big Gorilla. $1 million grand prize, $350 to enter. Drafts going on, both slow and live. The early Rampage and the 7 Bananas promo going on right now. You could win a Jungle Safari for free when you register right now. You could be entered, not could. If you're entering the Big Gorilla right now, you are entered not only in the Big Gorilla, but the early Rampage tournament as well. 2 tournaments for the price of one, $350, myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on this video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which will be again Thursday night at 7 o'clock. More to come on that. I want to bring in the man, the myth, the legend, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football. He handles everything at KFFSC.com, the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship, of which after I went off the air last week, I spent a good number of time or a good number of hours, minutes, probably minutes is better, to register for the the KFFSC main event. And very excited for the KFFSC Sweet 16 Best Ball Tournament that will be launching shortly. Yours truly will be in it. A lot of the people hanging out tonight will be in it as well. KFFSC.com is where to go. And the commissioner joins us tonight, Ferrell Elliott. Ferrell, welcome aboard, man.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm good. I spent part of my evening tonight.
Yeah.
Ensnaring a location for us, because you are going to be in Northeast Wisconsin for glorious Mile of Music Festival.
Mile of Music, buddy.
Yeah, it's going to be good. That's coming up at the end of July, early August. We're going to do the show live, and I think, and I'm not going to reveal the location yet, because we have to cross the I's and dot the T's, as it were. But I think I have found a place for us to do the show live. You and I both together in the same location.
I love it.
Which I'm very excited
to Kristen DeAbel's tour bus. That's where we'll be. We'll be in.
So you represent a lot of musical artists. How many musical artists are coming to Northeast Wisconsin for Mile of Music? Something that has been huge over the last decade here in Northeast Wisconsin. And you've been up here for it before, and I know you love it.
Yeah. Now, but Balky, when you can hang out with you and Leroy and meet all the people that you guys have known, and you know, the Dizzle's in the street walking around, we can see him in his own hometown element, and it's a great weekend. I remember the one time that I did the show with you on a call-in basis from the president's office at, what's the name of the college?
Lawrence
College.
Yeah.
And I walked into the office at the chapel. It's either the president or the guy that ran that. Anyway, we made ourselves at home in Appleton in all ways that we can. So it's going to be fun. Katie will be there. Kristen will be there. Geneva, which you'll recall previously known as Frederick the Younger, they'll be there. But quite honestly, it's a discovery of a lot of music that we haven't heard from a lot of artists. So, yeah, 4 fantastic days of music.
It's coming up in roughly 3 months right now.
In a live podcast with you and I together.
Yes, yeah,
amazing.
And I will let everybody know. Lawrence University Chapel. Lawrence, by the way, and I don't want to say hey, this is the type of people that graduate from Lawrence. One of the more famous or infamous now graduates of Lawrence University who cut his teeth acting there was Jeffrey Jones. And you say, Balky, who's Jeffrey Jones? That is the guy who was Principal Rooney in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And now he's been in some other stuff over the years. He's been in some pretty famous stuff. He's been on the wrong side of the law, so we'll leave it at that.
It's a great character actor.
Yeah, great character actor, Jeffrey Jones.
Fantastic.
There have been other people that have graduated from Lawrence. There have been other people who have performed at Lawrence over the years, Ferrell. Lewis Black, a famous comedian who was on The Daily Show for Comedy Central, has put on a few shows at Lawrence University Chapel, which is one of the big hubs for the Mile of Music Festival. So this is a big deal, and I'm excited to have you aboard. We're going to have a great weekend that weekend, enjoying a lot of great music. A lot of the acts that you rep that weekend, it's going to be a lot of fun as well. And that is coming up at the end of July, early August. We'll give you more details on that going forward with the Ferrell and Balky live HSFF hour going on this weekend. Okay, let's talk about what's going on in the NFL right now.
Let's do it.
Saad Youssef, who covers the Cowboys for The Athletic, said that they are still searching for their lead running back, which is kind of expected, maybe kind of not expected, given that they've only signed Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. Williams, who was cut by the Broncos, Sanders, who was cut by the Panthers. The pick for the Cowboys in the first round is number 12, and they could go with Ashton Genty there. Some of the pundits out there have said that Jerry Jones is not as enamored with Ashton Genty as you might think at this point. Running back is a super deep position in the draft this year. Ferrell, my contention is this. I don't believe the Cowboys are going to go running back in the first round. I do believe they're going to go running back in the second round. If they go running back in the second round, which is probably going to be, I don't know, what, somewhere in the 40s, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Is that a player that you're willing to say, screw Javonte Williams, screw Miles Sanders? I don't care that it wasn't a first round pick. This is a second round pick. I love this guy not only for Dynasty, but for redraft as well. Whether that's Caleb Johnson, whether it's Omari and Hampton, whoever it's going to be. If the Cowboys skip running back in the first round, are you all in on whoever they pick in the second or perhaps third round this year?
I think if you're going to rate the running backs, if you're going to come up with your sheet, and it's going to be deeper, as you said, Balky, than it usually is. If you're going to rate those guys, then you have to pick out preferred landing spots. And the Cowboys would seem to be that. That would be a preferred landing spot. So if the Dallas Cowboys draft a running back anywhere, I don't care what round it is, that player's moving up the board. John Terry asked a real interesting question that we'll get to later. And, I don't know who the player is, but I can tell you what, whoever the Cowboys take at running back, you've got to be interested. And there's not a big difference in talent once you get past Genty and some of the other guys. There's not a big difference in talent once you're 4 to 6 running backs in. So if they like a guy, and if he seems to be their kind of guy, which I really don't know. I really don't know what they're looking for at the position.
You don't know what Jerry Jones' kind of guy is at this point? Because I don't either.
It just, you can imagine that the Raiders want to find a guy that sort of looks like Josh Jacobs. And you could, and
the Cowboys want somebody that looks like Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And as we get closer, what do we got, Balky? 22 days until we get started with the
less
draft?
than that. We're at like 19 or 20 days.
I mean, we're there.
Yeah.
We're there.
I have to. So I want to do this in the chat, and I should have done this at the top of the show. Scott Christian piping in right now at the top of the show. Good evening, Ferrell, Balky, and Oinker. Here's Oinker, which we always miss Oinker in Louisville, but we'll get Oinker back in Louisville in a few months here. Can't think of a better way to spend a birthday evening listening to football talk with a couple of great guys and a pig. Happy birthday to Scott Christian. Ferrell, I don't know, it was his birthday today, and he's celebrating watching our show tonight.
Well, he and James Hicks are great teammates of the KFFSC, and we're pleased to have them. And they're so much fun with their oinker and their outfits and their way they approach it, and they're winning more. And I enjoy that. And so, congratulations, Scott! Happy birthday.
We also have a question from John Terry. Balky, what do you guys have planned for the big Wisconsin draft party? Only 3 more weeks. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Here's what I have planned. I was supposed to be doing stuff for the Better Sports Network. I was supposed to be doing stuff for my local radio station.
Really?
I have basically told both entities this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I am going up with a bunch of my friends. We're taking a big school bus up early afternoon on Thursday. I will be hanging out at the draft in Green Bay as a fan. And Friday, I don't know what's happening yet, but I'll probably be up there as a fan as well. And Saturday, I'm taking my son up to a draft. I don't think that the draft will ever come back to Green Bay, Ferrell. So I am soaking this in.
NFL experience for the draft is a wonderful thing. I'm glad you're doing it with your son. You said you're hijacking a school bus. What are you doing? You're taking a school bus. Okay.
Yeah.
That's highly unusual. But, to set the kids out of them before you hijack, it's one less crime you'll be accused of.
Yeah.
All in all, it's going to be a wonderful weekend. My weekend will be set here, sitting on the edge of my seat and manning the telephones. So, and that's, but it's one of the most exciting times of the year. And it gives all of us that play fantasy football, it gives us a great deal of direction. A lot of commentary tonight in the chat room, but some gentleman made a comment that if he goes, if they wait to, it's Micah Quincell said there'll be a rookie split with Javonte. Yeah, Mike, I think it's going to be split up no matter who it is, but that's you're spot on with that analysis. Yeah. If it's not a first round pick, and Terry says it'll be gone by 12, and I agree with that. My first thought was, if you want the Boise State running back, you're the Cowboys, you're going to have to trade up to get him.
I think the thing that to understand here is whether the Cowboys take a running back in the first round, whether they take a running back in the second round. I don't think it matters. Well, I shouldn't say that. It does matter. But I will say if the Cowboys end up going with Genty at 12, I don't think they would take Hampton that high. I could see them trading back in the first round and then taking Hampton. But the thing is, like, yeah, they have Javonte Williams. Yeah, they have Ferrell. Who was the other guy that Dallas signed besides Javonte Williams?
Dowdle?
Rico. No. Dowdle went to Carolina. There was another guy.
Dowdle's gone, huh?
Yeah, he's gone. They said it in the chat room right now. Miles Sanders from Carolina.
Oh, veteran Miles Sanders.
Right.
Didn't he take a little time out in Carolina too?
He did. He was there for a couple years. But my point is this: regardless of Sanders and Williams signing there, if the Cowboys take a running back on day one, or in my opinion, day two, one of those guys will not make the team. And then that running back will be splitting time with the other guy who still makes the team. And that split will dwindle as the season goes on, where the rookie, once it hits October, once it hits November, once it hits December, they are going to be the man. And then Javonte Williams or Miles Sanders, whoever makes it on that team, will be less and less fantasy valuable. And unless there's an injury, you can just cut them off your team.
I still think Javonte Williams has a lot to offer an NFL team. So I might call foul with that, Balky. But we'll see. Once Mostert became a Raider, I checked out on most of the running back moves anyway, because I was complete with that. And it's the movement has died down. It's not making big waves. The players aren't getting paid at running back. But my goodness, what about the tight end position, Balky?
The tight end position is going to be very interesting here. I want to as we're getting there's so many people about the draft here. Corey Walters is going to be hanging out right outside Lambeau Field. He's going to be Thursday and Friday. He can't wait for the draft as well. And Michael Kinzel. I thought Miles Sanders was in the CFL. No, he is not.
He doesn't have enough speed.
Not right now. He's not, at least as well. Let's move on, Ferrell, before we get to Kyle Pollock here tonight. Trey McBride is now a rich man after signing the most lucrative tight end contract in NFL history. 4 years, $76 million. It's the extension in Arizona that's going to keep him there for several years. $19 million a year. He is the highest paid tight end in NFL history, $43 million in guaranteed money. He has 3 years of NFL experience behind him. And this past year, career high in targets, career high in receptions, career high in yardage, only 6 receiving touchdowns in 3 years in the NFL, which is a little weird, but touchdowns, not the stickiest category here. Cardinals general manager Monty Ossenfort said that this was a priority to get McBride inked up long-term here. And now it has happened in Arizona. For people who own him in Dynasty, I think you got to be loving this. For people who own Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson especially, maybe you're not feeling as good as you were this morning. But this is not a negative on those guys. This is much, as far as I'm concerned, Ferrell, this is a big-time positive for McBride. Whether Kyler Murray is his quarterback for the next 4 years or anybody else, this guy is a real one, as Theo Greminger from Fantasy Points would say. He is a real one.
Keeping it real, huh?
Yes, he is. I love McBride here, and this is a great deal for him.
Yeah, and statistically, the receiving game is not going to look like what let's talk about our beloved Raiders again. It's not going to look like a Bowers, big numbers, and everyone else is playing catch-up, especially with their new quarterback. This will help the quarterback. This will help Harrison, especially. When you have this kind of nucleus and cluster of talent, you begin to think that if Arizona can straighten out, get this locked up, and continue growing the quality of talent in their team, that they have a good chance for everyone to play better. So this was, of course, it was a priority, and Monty's just not talking general manager talk. Monty's out there making it happen, so good for him.
Good for him indeed, and good for us as well, because we are going to bring on right now our guest for the evening, a guy who has won multiple FFPC league titles at different entry, not only entry fees, but different formats, Dynasty, Redraft, what have you. He joins us tonight to talk about the Titans running backs, the likelihood of Josh Jacobs duplicating in 2025 what he did this past season in Green Bay, and his favorite rookies in this year's class. Please welcome the multi-time FFPC Dynasty, League champion, Kyle Pollock, who joins us tonight on the show. Kyle,
There he
welcome
is.
aboard. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. How you doing on this Friday evening?
Oh, I'm doing great. Just got back from our fun vacation, so drove back all day today. Beat the storms home back here.
Looks like you got a little sun, Kyle.
Sun from the beach. You know, I don't tan; I get red. So I'll be white and red. So
What kind of jersey's that you're sporting?
oh, Joe Burrow, of course.
Yeah. Are you a golfer as well? You got
I'm
a
a
little
golfer as
Titleist
well.
going on.
Yep, I'm a golfer.
You're a man of many hobbies. Is fantasy football your favorite?
It's up there. Yeah, it's definitely more so now. I used to play a lot of golf, but now I'm working, have some kids. It's gotten more into fantasy football the last couple of years for sure, especially Dynasty.
So
Balky's going to ask you the magic question. What do you do when you're not on vacation?
I'm going to ask him that, but Ferrell, here's the thing. I have so many other questions I want to ask Kyle before that, but we will get to that. I promise you. Where was vacation for you recently?
Yeah, we were down in South Carolina at Surfside Beach. So,
Oh, nice.
That's where everybody needs to go.
Yeah, great place. First time there. It's awesome.
My aunt and her husband live in Greenville, South Carolina, which granted is not on the coast, but we have gone down there. We were just there a couple of years ago, and I loved hanging out in South Carolina. Like it's a great place. It's an underrated place to go. So kudos to you on a hopefully a restful and a fun vacation there as well. I want to talk about the Bengals here to kick things off before we talk about you personally. I know you're a Bengals guy. I know you're a Cincinnati fan. Who day? Hashtag who day. Is the salary cap real, Kyle? Because the Bengals have essentially soaked in a ton of money into Joe Burrow, a ton of money into Jamar Chase, a ton of money into T. Higgins, and there's a non-zero chance that they soak in a ton of money into Trey Hendrickson yet as well. How are you handling this whole thing as a Bengals fan, knowing that if Hendrickson is not inked long-term, this could be huge for the Bengals offense, Burrow, Higgins, Chase Brown, so on and so forth, if they're in a lot of these shootouts going forward. I'm just kind of curious to get a Bengals fanboy perspective on this, knowing that you still play fantasy football and you're taking this all into consideration when you're drafting your teams and managing your dynasty teams as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think from a fantasy football perspective, it's all go forward with Joe Burrow and all the offense. It's going to be great. From a football standpoint, I think it's going to be really important to draft some good guys here. Al Golden, defensive coordinator hire, I think will be a big, bringing him back into the fold. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, it's from a fantasy football perspective. Gotta love what they're doing there. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch those guys put up a lot of points. So.
I got a Cincinnati Bengal question for you. Do you think they're missing a third receiver, a number 3 guy?
Ooh,
somebody just to complete the group.
I think Mike Gesicki's really become that third receiver. I mean, he's a tight end, but I think you're going to see him with that contract extension they got. I think he'll really take Tyler Bullard's role in the slot, play a lot there as a big, tall slot tight end guy. So we'll see. I think he's going to kind of fill that. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe, Andre Yoshevich might be able to do something there, but yeah.
And if Tutu Atwell can get $11 million, Andre's got to be happy. Andre's got to be, saying, hey, look at me.
Kyle, hold on, Ferrell. Kyle, let me ask you this. In regards to Yoshevich and Jermaine Burton, I know FFPC Dynasty Cutdowns just happened. Are these guys? I shouldn't say are these guys. Those players are probably out there in your dynasty leagues right now. Are any of them targets for you at this point, or is the Bengals offense just basically like, hey, you want a piece of Chase, you want a piece of Higgins, Brown, Gesicki going forward, and Burton and Yoshevich are kind of afterthoughts? How are you treating it?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think they're more afterthoughts at this point, if I'll be honest. I think if I was to pick one, I'd pick Yoshevich, but I think Burton, he's still got to figure some things out for himself.
He's done, right? Like, you can't roster him. I'm fine with cutting him in my dynasty leagues at this point.
Right. I had him on a couple, drafted him in a rookie, and I was like, yep, kept him all year. I'm like, nope, done with that. So, yeah, but I think it's going to go through those 3, and then obviously Chase Brown and Gesicki will have games that flash, but yeah.
So let me ask you this before Ferrell asks you about Devon Achane. When you're not winning FFPC Dynasty Leagues, FFPC Redraft Leagues, and I know you're in a bunch of them right now, what are you doing for a living as far as what you can share with us tonight on the show?
Sure. Yeah, I work as an internal auditor at a insurance company, Cincinnati Insurance Companies here in Cincinnati. So yeah.
So you're right in Cincinnati. So this obviously, like you were, I don't want to say cursed, but you couldn't help yourself being a Bengals fan at this point.
Oh yeah, my dad was a season ticket holder for 25 plus years, so I was born into it.
Back in the Boomer Esiason, Carl Pickens days, like I'm trying to think, Ferrell, who else am I forgetting about 25 years ago with Cincinnati?
Virgil Carter.
Virgil Carter. Oh, yeah. Icky Woods.
Essex Johnson.
Yeah.
Essex Johnson. What a great name.
Yeah.
Of course, that's 50 years ago, Buck. You said 25 years
well,
ago.
I'm just, we did for my local radio show, we did a promotion here at a bar where Icky Woods showed up, like where the bar showed. And he gave us a liner, and we talked with Icky Woods that day and talked about football. But I'm going to tell you this about Icky Woods, and Kyle, maybe you know this, maybe you don't. That guy, we watched football with him that Sunday when he showed up. He did know the game, and he was dialed in. We had Red Zone on, and he was telling us everything like that was going on. I just kind of stayed out of his way, and I just listened because that guy knows ball. Icky Woods, a legend in Cincinnati. Quite frankly, a legend in NFL football. He's one of my favorites for sure.
A guy named Collinsworth used to play for him.
Yeah, who's on Sunday Night Football right now?
Yeah,
he's legendary wide receiver. Who? Let me ask you this, Kyle. Yeah. The Mount Rushmore of Cincinnati Bengals, off the top of your head, in 2025, who goes on that? Who goes on Mount Rushmore?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think for me, I kind of maybe shade towards the newer guys because I grew up watching them, but I definitely, for me, Chad Johnson or Chad Ochocinco would be one for sure. Gotta love him. It's interesting after that. I think going to be Joe Burrow for sure eventually. I mean, he's not there yet, but I'm going to put him up there. And I think what you're seeing from Jamar Chase, even AJ Green, those two good ones for me.
Oh, AJ Green, yeah.
You got to appreciate it while you got it, brother.
That's right.
Wonderful game.
Shout out to Julio Jones, by the way, who put in his official retirement papers with the NFL, who was not a Cincinnati Bengal, but the AJ Green thing reminded me of him. And Julio Jones, God, Ferrell and Kyle, how many times did we have that dude on our fantasy teams that helped us out over the years? Happy trails to him. Okay, we have talked about everything else enough. Ferrell, I'm going to let you talk about the Miami Dolphins running back.
Well, yeah, but I have important Cincinnati questions. So
please go ahead. Go ahead.
So you live on the Kentucky side, though, correct? You live in Kentucky.
I live in Ohio.
So do you? But you're considering a move. You're moving down to the Kentucky side. There's realtors I can send your way, Kyle. Is what I'm saying. we can make some things happen for you in time for you to come. Well, I tell you what. Wherever you're sitting, you got to be happy if you're an A-Chain fan because Mostert has moved on. Yeah. What do you think and if you assume like I do that this is a 250 carry a year back, what do you think it does to the receivers that for the first time last year, be it injury, be it game situation, be it a number of factors, including some unstable or inconsistent play by the quarterback. Tyreek Hill and Waddle, is this a year that they begin to shave off some of the fantasy points that we've so often counted on from them?
Yeah, it's a great question. I personally, I'm a big Achane fan as well. I think I love his ability to receiving ability. Yeah, I definitely think if you're a Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle fan right now, you're feeling a little nervous for sure. I think there's definitely, whether it's with Tua and his play, he's kind of leveled off, seems to be struggling, whether it's staying healthy or just being consistent. I think even just Jonnu Smith, his role last year and how he really emerged in their offense, getting all those down the stretch. I just think, I think Achane's taking a bigger piece of the pie for sure for receiving. A lot less targets going around for those guys. So, I think – I don't know if they're going to bounce back. I think it'll be interesting to see what Tyreek Hill does. He's definitely he's so reliant on his speed, as he gets older. And I wonder if he's just going to not be able to be the same guy. And
it's just for the year when the competition was off with the Jets. You get the Jets twice, and the Jets weren't what they were supposed to be. New England was a far cry from what they have been. You would have thought that it would have been a different year for those kind of guys. If I had told you when we were in Las Vegas at Planet Hollywood, this is what the rest of the AFC East is going to do, we would have probably aggressively drafted Dolphins. But that was not the case, was it?
Yeah.
I think the other thing to keep in mind here in regards to the Dolphins here, and Kyle, you kind of alluded to it. How confident are you in a bounce back with Hill and Waddle, regardless of, and obviously if there's no bounce back with Hill and Waddle, it should be a big Jonnu Smith. It should be a big Devon Achane year. If I had to pin you down to a percentage chance of the bounce back for the wide receivers here with Tunga Bailoa, is it 70%? Is it 60%? Is it lower than that? What would you say?
Yeah, I'd say I'd give it about a 45% chance. I'm more pessimistic about it. Like I said, I've never been a big Tua guy personally. Just kind of looked at him, just even from college. I thought coming out in that class, and it just seems like he's had a hard time staying healthy, and it seems like he's not really been able to take the next step. So I think and I think with the Achane and Smith emerging, I think that's going to just limit Hill and Waddle be able to bounce back to that elite higher end territory they were at.
Let's. I want to do this here as long as we have a Bengals fan on the show tonight. Michael Kenzel chimes in with a question for you, Kyle. What do you think Cincinnati is going to do at depth for running back behind Chase Brown? Now, obviously, free agency is kind of the first wave, the second wave, it's behind us. But as far as the draft goes, you kind of alluded to this earlier. This is a super deep, talent-rich format here for running backs this year, where you can get guys in the second round, the third round, the fourth round, the fifth round, quite frankly, as difference makers here in fantasy. What do you think Cincinnati's going to do at running back, knowing how much money they have soaked into quarterback and wide receiver and potentially defensive end? They might have to rely on the draft for running back depth. And then, quite frankly, if they do add it, when is it going to happen? And how does this affect Chase Brown? I know it's a lot of questions here, but how do you feel about the Bengals running back situation? Or how do you think you're going to feel about the Bengals running back situation with Chase Brown after the NFL draft come early May?
Yeah, I think when they signed Samaje Perine back, I think that was really telling to me personally. I think they're very big on him. I think they're going to see him have a role. But yeah, I think you're going to see them draft someone. It's going to be a later day draft. It's going to be day 3 draft, if I had to guess. I don't see them spending a top, first, second, or third round pick. So I think it might be a 4th round pick guy, and I think it's going to be more one of the more power back kind of guys to fit with Chase Brown style. Like I think perfect target for him is maybe like an Ollie Gordon on round 4 or something like that. I think that'd be someone I could see them going after. But yeah, I think they're going to look for some kind of power back guy to complement him, and P. Ryan is going to be like the third, assistant third down back for Chase Brown.
Which is great for us who own Chase Brown in Dynasty Leagues, because if they invest a 4th round pick or a 5th round pick in a guy like Ollie Gordon, for the example that you're giving, that's not going to threaten Chase Brown's fantasy value in 2025, which is great. That's what we want here going forward.
You've got a significant sunburn. You've been on vacation, and so far, you've only been peppered questions, which the correct answer could only come from you owning a crystal ball. So you must be getting the September newspaper today when everyone. But so I have a question for you, that based on something that's already happened. You won't have to guess about it, but I sure as heck would like you to tell me what's going to happen with it, because I own both these players across several formats in Dynasty. What should I expect? Jackson Smith and Jigba and the addition of Cooper Kupp. What does it look like for both these players with the new quarterback, with the rebuild there? With it's really a quarterback is coming off a good year and a very high end but aging wide receiver matched with a young wide receiver that just hasn't seemed to put it all together. So that's what I want you to tell me, because we know it's going to happen. What's it going to look like?
Yeah, it's interesting you said that. I think, I'm a big Jackson Smith guy. I made a lot of trades to get him after his rookie year when he had a down year, and I think that paid off well last year. It's going to be interesting to see what his role is. He was so much in the slot, and with DK and Tyler Lockett, now those guys are gone. And then you bring Cooper Kupp in, who's another slot guy. So I personally don't think it hurts his dynasty value as much, the Cooper Kupp signing. Like you said, I think he's on the end of his career. I think he'll still be a compliment, but I'm more curious to see what they do in the draft as well. I think I could see them. They're going to have to add more at receiver, I think.
So since you're big on JSN, answer me this. Am I wrong to say he hasn't quite got it together? I mean, did you see the things that you really wanted to see from him last year? Because I've always thought about this player that I never have really evaluated him correctly. I'm still in a wait and see mode. Should I hang on to him? Is his game radiating fantasy points in 2025?
I think so. I mean, especially I just personally think the target share he got last year, he's the offense really was built around him. Even with Metcalf there, he was kind of taking a bigger chunk of the offense, but a lot of the game plan was for him. Like I said, I mean, I think with Geno going on and now Sam Darnold's being there, it'll be interesting to see if there's any impact with that. But I still feel good about JSN personally. I think he's going to continue to build off that. Again, Ohio State receivers, I think you're seeing just almost across the board. I think these guys coming under the Brian Hartline, I think you're just seeing them put up pretty big numbers in the NFL, and I think their talent's there. So,
here's the thing regarding. Well, okay, I want to move past that. Let's talk about Tennessee running backs.
Yeah,
this is not a popular thing right now, Kyle, but I do want to bring this up because with the running back class that is coming in here, not a lot of people are talking about the Titans running back situation, which over the last couple of years, it's been Pollard, it's been Spears, and it's been nobody else. The Titans are kind of in a transitional mode with the number one pick. It's probably going to be Cam Ward. They're probably going to have a new offense. They're probably going to have a new quarterback this year. Will they have a new running back attack as well? Because with how target rich this draft is in the backfield, they could easily pick somebody on day 2 or even early day 3 that would absolutely destroy the fantasy value for Spears, the fantasy value for Pollard right now. I don't know if you own these guys in any of your leagues. My question to you is it even worth trying to trade? Because it's so obvious that the Titans not only will have a new quarterback, but perhaps a new running back as well. How are you treating Spears and Pollard in your dynasty leagues at this point?
Yeah, I have a couple shares of them. But for most parts, personally, with this class coming in, I'm not trying to buy a lot of these low-end running backs just because there's going to be so much transition after the draft. I do think for the Titans, though, I actually don't feel as worried about those guys as some other players. I think they don't have a lot of picks. They don't have a third-round pick. So they're not really draft-rich capital. So, I mean, they might take a guy day 4, day 5, but I also think Tajay Spears, I think they complement each other well. So I could see them not really. I think they have also just so many other needs on their team. They're just not a great football team right now. So I can see them spending capital other places. But again, we'll see. We never know.
You never know.
I don't think anyone thought, Seattle would draft Charbonnet so early after drafting Walker. So
I remember I was covering the draft live for the Better Sports Network on Thursday night when that happened. And my co-host that we had on, I don't know what we were talking about at the time, but all of us, when we saw the pick, we're like, whoa, it blew us away. And that could obviously happen this year. Pat Fitzmaurice from Fantasy Pros has said that Thursday night and especially Friday will be a retirement party for many of the veteran running backs around the NFL. He singled out Ezekiel Elliott. There are others like him. And I think that's going to happen. It's going to be, one of those things where it's just like, whether you think you're solid or all set to go with your running backs in your dynasty leagues, as Lee Corso would say, not so fast, my friend. Let's see what happens Friday night, April 25th. That is going to be a big deciding point here. I want to talk about my Green Bay Packers here for a second, Kyle. Josh Jacobs had a fantastic season in his first year wearing the green and gold for the Packers this past year. The Packers unexpectedly went with a really run-heavy attack, for the majority of the 2024 season. I want to ask you, going now, knowing that Marshawn Lloyd, the forgotten man in the Packers backfield, should be healthy to start the season. There's a non-zero chance that they invest in a running back on day 2 or perhaps early day 3. Knowing all these things, how likely is it that Josh Jacobs, let's not even say duplicates what he did in 2024, but maybe has 80% of what he did this past year, 85% of what he did this past year? How do you feel about Josh Jacobs coming into 2025?
Yeah, I think there will be some regression. He had a lot of touchdowns. I think there's some things that might be hard from the match, but I still feel okay about Josh Jacobs personally. I think he's always been kind of an underrated guy, as a first-round pick with the Raiders. I think he's kind of been like had good years, had some bad years, but just some of it, some lingering injuries. But like I said, he's a guy I own on a few teams, and I even bought him on one team this offseason for, I thought, a pretty good price. So I still think he's I just think with him in that offense, I think you just saw how vital he was to Green Bay. And but like I said, I don't think they still have any one receiver right now that's going to be kind of the alpha, taking a lot of stuff. So I still think he's going to be the focal point for maybe one more year. But yeah, I could see Lloyd getting more involved, kind of like Emmanuel Wilson did, but yeah, I still think he's going to be able to do well. Maybe not as well as last year. I think they'll be
right. Yeah. My whole thing on Jacobs, and I haven't said this on any of my shows recently, but that contract that he signed last year, it was going to be easy for the Packers to get out of that a contract after the first year. They obviously are not going to because of how good it was, but they can get out of the second year. And if they invest in a running back in round 2 or round 3, this could be like the thunder and lightning, the bang bang here with Lloyd and X running back this year. And then Josh Jacobs is, looking for a new deal in 2026. These are the things we have to think of, Ferrell, when we go forward with our dynasty rookie drafts, knowing that Josh Jacobs, hey, he's really super exciting and shiny right now, but fast forward 9 months, may not be the same.
Oh, Balky, Josh Jacobs just can't get any respect. Just no matter what happens, he just can't get. How many years has Kyle Pitts been in the league? Your namesake, Mr. Kyle. How long has he been in the league?
Yeah, 4 years or something like that.
Balky and I love the movies.
Feels like 14. It feels like 14.
Feels like But Balky and I love the movies. My favorite movie of all time is Casablanca. And in the introductions, it says the people come to Casablanca and they wait, and they wait, and they wait. And that's exactly where we are with Kyle Pitts. Are you tired of waiting? Because one of the people in the chat room here said a lot of good tight ends in the draft this year. We used to think Kyle Pitts was a good tight end. Is it just a situation that he's in Atlanta? Break it down for us, because I was offered him in a trade the other day, and I didn't think the price was real expensive, but I said a big no thank you.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Kyle Pitts is definitely one of those guys, one of my most owned players that I don't know what to do with for sure.
Oh, you're okay. Fair enough. The crystal ball doesn't even work for this one, right?
You can't trade him now. It's you when you got him, he had so much potential, so hype, and now it's like, you just gotta feel like you just gotta keep rolling with him. But yeah,
Can you put a trade value on him if someone were to send you an offer and says, I want Pitts, what will you take in a draft pick?
I think the problem is I would want more than they should even really willing to offer, because it's because of what I paid for him. But yeah, I think with him being so young still, there's that glimmering hope that he could turn into something. But I think this is probably for me like last year, even giving any hope on that. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I also could see him going somewhere else, becoming better. But
that's good. Our good friend Pearson says maybe he just needs the right environment. Johnny Smith certainly did. He looked like a complete different player last year. Yeah. So yeah, I'm exactly. That's one of the things free agents for.
Yeah,
there's no portal for him to enter, so he's going to have to go through free agency.
Here's what it comes down to for me and Pitts. If I have him on my team, and I think I have him on 1 or 2 dynasty teams, I'm not selling him. I can't get anything for him. What's the point? If I don't have him, I am not seeking him out. Like, I'm not trying to get him on my teams or whatever. It's wait and see. If I have him, we'll see what happens. If I don't have him, I'm not going to go out and get him if he all of a sudden blows up with Michael Penix at the start of the season. That's my personal thoughts on Kyle Pitts. Let's get back to your Bengals here. Kyle Pollock, not the correct Kyle P on the show tonight, not Kyle Pitts. Are you more likely at this point to trade for T. Higgins in your dynasty leagues, or are you more likely to trade him away? And I know that's kind of a loaded question, but given that Chase and Higgins signed these long-term deals, Burrow is locked up, the fact that they probably won't be able to pay defenders on this team. So it should be a lot of big-time offensive performances, perhaps a lot of shootout games for the Bengals here going forward. How do you treat T. Higgins in your dynasty leagues right now, trying to look in the Pollock crystal ball for the future?
Yeah, I would say I would trade for. I think there's going to be people out there who feel disappointed he didn't get to free agency, didn't ever get to become that number one somewhere else. So I do think he's got some upside limited with that, but I just still think, he is going to be a very solid high-end wide receiver too, kind of like Devontae Smith, kind of the, playing sidekick to Jamar Chase. And if Chase goes down, I think then all of a sudden he has the opportunity to put up big numbers. So I would try to capitalize, I think, on those who thought he was going to get out of Cincinnati and truly come to the wide receiver one territory. So that's what I would be doing, is trying to trade for.
So do you have a favorite rookie in this class? I don't. And this is the first year I haven't. And Balky's got like 10 favorite rookies. Do you have a favorite rookie?
Like this class, I really like the running back. So I think the one that's really come my favorite personally just is Cam Scatterbo. I just love the way he plays. I think he fits the AFC North style of football. I don't think the Bengals will get him, but I would love to take him as a second running back with Chase Brown. But I don't think they're going to do that. But again, I just love the way he plays the game. I think he's really fun to watch. So he's definitely one of my favorites right now. So
here's a loaded question for you, Kyle. If you could pick any NFL team that Cam Scatterbo could go to, like obviously this guy is not going to go in the first round. Maybe day 2, we'll see what happens. But if you could pick for fantasy goodness, like where is the best spot for Cam Scatterbo? Is it Baltimore? Is it San Francisco? Like there's a lot of different places he could go to. Where would you, if you could have your pick of the litter, any NFL team, and you could just say, okay, Scatterbo goes here, and then you have the opportunity to draft him in your dynasty league or what have you, where would you want to see Scatterbo go to?
Yeah. So if I'm going to set aside my fanhood with what I'm about to say,
right? Yeah,
it's going to be Pittsburgh Steelers for sure. I think he'd be a great fit in Pittsburgh. So
Scatterbo and Warren Ferrell, I like that combo.
I do too, but I really would like to see Warren get a workman's like carries and passes.
But he won't, and that like I've given up the goat on that. Like
but now that you've got a glimmer of hope, now that Harris is gone, look, we've got a guest that knows about the draft. I thought that was a wonderful answer, and I was hoping you would bring that up. So John Terry, we ought to lean on John Balky to get some good, show content. He could actually be a co-producer or something. But he had a question: who's the rookie that's going to really spike and move up in his ADP after the draft? And I think we can take a stab at that. I got a couple of guys, but I really do want to hear your answer, Kyle. A guy right now whose ADP spikes after the draft.
And you talk about rookies?
Yeah, because
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Cleveland's another landing spot. I'm curious who they end up with. I think that'll be a guy who'll jump a lot because I don't think they'll spend an early pick. But one of the guys I personally like is LaQuint Allen from Syracuse. I think he's a really good kind of pass-catching guy that lands in the right spot. I can see him taking a big jump. So that's probably – and then I also like – and I'm blanking on his last name, but the guy from Rutgers, Kyle Monahue, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to look that up right now. I got it.
But he's another guy, just kind of like the way he runs, the way his style is. I think he'll be kind of a guy that kind of pops if he gets in the right spot. So
Manan guy. Yeah.
Kyle, Mike Quincell hits with a good one with R.J. Harvey, the running back out of UCF. So it's a player that I really like. I got a couple. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver, Iowa State.
Love him.
Yes.
Love him.
You know, and our quarterback here at University of Louisville, Tyler, and I'll probably mispronounce the last name, which is kind of embarrassing considering he's in my hometown. Tyler Slough.
I've heard Shook on this.
Shook.
Yeah.
Well,
here's the thing.
He doesn't have a K anywhere in his name.
I know.
We get to that.
The wild thing is I know he's been playing at Louisville the last year, but I've been told he is only a couple years younger than you.
Yeah, he's older than you, Bob. He's
100%
between our ages. He's between, yeah.
He is the rare guy who is cashing in NIL and Social Security.
Well, you got to love what he did. They told him last year, they said, you know what, you could be an undrafted free agent. He said, I can do better than that. Yeah. And when Brom calls, you answer the phone, and if you're a quarterback, you get on the nearest, you start hitchhiking down 71 and move to Kentucky, which is exactly what Kyle P. should do. We covered that earlier in the show.
If I was to pose this to you, Kyle Pollock, who is joining us tonight, your top 3 rookie picks in Dynasty Superflex leagues. Let's just say we're in a vacuum here. Every team is built the same. How would you lay out your top 3 Dynasty Superflex picks? 101, 102, 103, regardless of team need or anything like that, because obviously we're taking into account the quarterbacks, we're taking into account the running backs, and obviously Tet McMillan factors into this as well. Putting you on the spot here tonight, but how would you rank your top 3 FFPC Dynasty Superflex rookie draft picks?
Yeah, I would say for me, Alshon Jenti, number 1. I feel pretty good about that.
Yep.
I think Cam Ward, if he goes number 1 overall, the Titans like it's looking, I would put him at number 2 just because I think the value of quarterback. And then I think it's a little tougher, but personally, I would go Trevion Henderson as my number 3.
Ooh.
So I think he's going to be one of these guys that really has a great NFL career. So I'm a big fan of him.
Henderson over Hampton, Henderson over Burden, Henderson over Shadir Sanders. This is a guy that you clearly like quite a bit here.
Yeah, I do. I think he's really talented. I think he's got all parts of the game. I think he's a 3-down guy. I think he can do it all. So I think he's got pass blocking, which I think is going to help him stay on the field more. He can do it all. So I like him a lot.
I think one of the great things about Henderson is whoever drafts him, and he might go round 1. I don't think he will. It's probably going to be early round 2. But whoever drafts him is probably going to either A, have a running back already on that team that can keep Henderson healthy for the majority of the season, or B, they will draft another. They go bang bang with Henderson in the second, and then maybe another running back in the third or the fourth or whatever. Because one of the things we've learned about Henderson over the years, if he has to be the guy like he was at Ohio State, it hasn't worked out well for him.
Yeah.
The Buckeyes go out prior to this season and they get Quinshon Judkins, and they add him to the Buckeyes backfield. And then all of a sudden these guys become 1A and 1B. Henderson stays healthy and he stays awesome all season. And I think that's something that you got to keep in mind. If Henderson goes to a team that already has a running back that is ready to produce or already has produced, or they go bang, bang, and they get another running back on day 2 or day 3, there is going to be a movement in the dynasty community that is going to keep Trevion Henderson's ADP down. I don't think you do that. I think that if a team does that with Henderson, where they add somebody or they already have somebody, this is all beneficial to Henderson, and he is still going to be a great player this year. You can't really see it. You got to squint to see it, but I think it's going to happen this year. So whether he's the bell cow or not, Kyle, I'm with you. I think this guy is going to be big in 2025 for redraft and dynasty leagues.
I love that, Buck. You squint to see it.
Squint to see it. Yeah. I'm
squinting to see all these offers, Kyle, that come into my inbox from Dynasty, and I just can't pull the trigger on because I'm not building my team through training, so I better have a good draft. What is there in your Dynasty teams? Is there one player that you really want to get off the roster and really sell? And is there one that you're actively trying to acquire?
Yeah.
Because I wish I could get that fever that says, I really want to go get that player. And You got a guy like that?
Yeah, I think I think generally for selling, I'm really trying to sell any running backs who are not in any of the non-top elite guys. Just getting set before the draft, especially. I think the one that I sold the most and gotten pretty good value for is Tyrone Tracy for the Giants.
Oh, totally! I love that. Yeah, absolutely. What have you been getting for him in your deals?
So, for example, one I paired him up with Josh Downs and was able to get Jared Goff was able to get Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall back on the team.
Yeah.
Need to cut some stuff back. Another one I was able to pair him with Derrick Henry to get Jahmyr Gibbs, which I really like that one a lot.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that was kind of the two I thought of. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the running backs I was trying to either tier up to one of the top guys or just kind of get rid of them and just if I could get.
Well, you may regret that when Derrick Henry's 42 and still playing.
Yeah, maybe.
Jahmyr Gibbs. Hard to pass that up.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this here, guys. As we're making our way through the end of the show tonight. I want to go to the YouTube chat. Well, there's a lot of stuff about Kyle Pitts. I think we've talked that to death. Kyle Pitts, the Bengals. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Okay, let's do this. Let's talk about Travis Hunter here. Pearson chiming in on this. Travis Hunter is the most exciting prospect in the NFL draft. Different is exciting. Let's see an offense and a defense timeshare like we've never seen. This is something that you will have to answer to, Kyle, when it gets to your rookie drafts. How do you think you're going to handle a guy like Travis Hunter, who maybe is the best wide receiver prospect in this draft, but at the same time, if they're using him a lot on defense, I don't know how beneficial he can be for fantasy. It's one of the great conundrums we've had to answer over the last 2 decades in Dynasty. What's your response to this?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be really curious to how he's announced on draft night.
Yeah.
I'm all in. Like I said, I might put him in my number 3 spot, if that's the case. But yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. I don't know. It's all about fantasy football is all about targets and opportunities, and you can be talented, but if you're playing defense half the time, it's going to be interesting. So,
or more than half the time too.
Yeah,
that's the other thing to keep in mind. Michael Kinzel chiming in right now. Jaden Higgins is a baller. If Iowa State had a better quarterback, and by the way, where's the hate on Rocco? Don't hate on Rocco. He was a fantastic quarterback for Iowa State there. But he says if Iowa State had a better quarterback, he'd be right there with Tet McMillan. Kyle, I am not willing to go that far, but I certainly understand the sentiment. Your thoughts on Jaden Higgins, the big wide receiver out of Iowa State here, Ames, Iowa, the pride of Ames, Iowa, coming into the NFL draft. How do you think Higgins falls in rookie drafts, and how do you evaluate him as a prospect?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting where he lands. I know I've seen second round drafts, going to second round pick. Definitely got to love what you're seeing from him. I think in this class, I think some of the higher receivers I'm not as high on as some others, but I think it's not a great receiver class. So I think he's definitely got a chance to be a guy. I mean, I see him kind of maybe as second round guy in a rookie draft. That's where I'd look at him for with all the running backs.
So you're kind of I'm assuming he goes in the second round in the NFL draft. You would take him, you would skip over him in the first round of your rookie drafts, assuming he goes on day 2, and you would just take a shot on him some of your drafts in your second round.
I think with the amount of running backs out there and even some of the tight ends that we have, love. I don't see him going, for me personally, in the first round.
Okay.
Draft. So I see him maybe early second. I might take a look at him then. So I don't think I'll get a lot of him because I think he'll go early if he gets a great draft spot. So
another question from Aunt Jemima, John Terry himself. Did you go to Ohio State by chance? Is that where you went to college? Where did you go to college, Kyle?
Yeah, I did not. I actually went to Cincinnati for my first year, and then I ended up at Cincinnati Christian over there. Played golf on the school's team there. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what is Cincinnati Christian D1?
No, it's an NAIA school.
Okay, so we have an NAIA collegiate golfer on the show tonight, adding into the long line of incredible athletes we've had on the show. Kyle, I appreciate that, you sharing that tonight. Michael Kinzel also wants to know, and we have not talked a lot about Caleb Johnson tonight, but he wants to know what we think of the Iowa State running back. Kyle, I'll throw this to you. I am not down. I'm not up on this guy. I think there's limited upside for him in the NFL. How do you view Caleb Johnson?
Very similar. Yeah, I think he's going to be a solid running back. I don't see him as a high upside guy that I'm really going out to get. I think, like I said, I don't see him being a guy that land on a lot of my teams for fantasy football, but I think he'll be a good NFL running back for a team and get the job done in a lot of ways. But yeah.
I think, Ferrell, is that how you view Caleb Johnson as well? I mean, not anything spectacular, but what should be all right. The thing is, like, when it comes to your rookie draft, I always tend to draft for upside. So Caleb Johnson is kind of a challenge for me because I don't see a lot of upside, but I do see a lot of things that he can help me with, even in his rookie year, and in his rookie contract. I think he can be all right.
Yeah, I think he would have to be a late round redraft main event player for me. I don't think I'm going to get involved here. Tom Smith joined us late tonight, and it's always great to have Tom on here. We'll have to rewatch the show because we did talk about his beloved Miami Dolphins tonight. And Tom, we talked to a gentleman that knows football. It's been a pleasure having this cat here with us.
Kyle, you've been a gentleman and a scholar. I feel bad having you come on tonight and hustle right after your vacation is done. But I really want to thank you for all the insight you've provided. I want to wish you good luck in all your leagues this year, not only your rookie dynasty drafts that will be coming up in about a month here, but all your redraft leagues, everything that you're doing here with the FFPC. Thanks so much for carving out some time in your schedule. Who Day, #Who Day, indeed. And be very looking forward to seeing how Higgins, Chase, Burrow, Brown, everybody goes as far as bringing back fantasy value in redraft and dynasty leagues going forward in Cincinnati. Thank you so much, my friend. This was a treat, and good luck to you the rest of 2025 and beyond.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And he is the man, Kyle Pollock, ladies and gentlemen, the multi-league winner in the FFPC over the course of his career. Good stuff, Ferrell, from a Bengals fan tonight. And anytime we get a Bengals fan on, I think it's going to be crucial because as much as we saw from Burrow and Higgins and Chase and Brown last year, I think a lot of leagues will hinge upon how well these guys do in 2025, given that the defense, unless they hit on a lot of picks in the draft, is probably going to be mediocre to bad again this year.
When you have to score the ball, and it's good for fantasy sports perhaps, but it's not necessarily good for the football team. When you have to say we got to score 40 to compete, and what you opened with in the early part of the show, Boggy, talking about Hendrickson was right on spot. We've said on the show before, I don't understand how New Orleans ever let this player get away, and if Cincinnati doesn't, Cincinnati needs to make sure that he's a player.
And he will be. Will he be with the Bengals? I don't know. And quite frankly, as a fantasy player, as a dynasty player who owns Burrow, has Chase, is going to be deploying T. Higgins and Chase Brown in leagues this year, I kind of hope Hendrickson is not on the team. Like, I want that defense to be bad. I want the Bengals to be putting up video game stats every single time.
But you want the down and distance that a defense allows Burrow and Chase and those guys to get into. You don't want them. You don't want them having to go 80 yards to score the ball every time. I don't think.
No, I don't. I want. Yeah.
Yeah, and Hendricks, all those sacks means that ball comes, back to the Bengals often. And I think I think the possessions and what they do with it, from a down and distance and from a field position standpoint, they can make they can put a lot of touchdowns.
Ferrell, we are a little over 5 months away from Northern Kentucky and Louisville for the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship live event.
Yes.
But after we went off the air last week, I spent some time registering for not only re-upping my dynasty teams with the KFFSC, but I signed up for a bunch of main event teams. I signed up for the Midnight Madness Saturday in Louisville, which goes off the board at 11 o'clock. And then, because I'm a glutton for punishment, after that draft wraps up at about 1 a.m, I'll be drafting at the Sunrise at the Bourbon Turn in Louisville at 7:30 a.m. the next day. And then sunset at the Bourbon Turn at 7:30 at night. Those are just a few of the drafts I've already registered for at the KFFSC. I'll be registering for more. And then you also talked about this before we came on the air tonight, the best ball Sweet 16 tournament. This is a first for the KFFSC, if I'm remembering correctly. And this is going to be available for people shortly here.
Yeah, in the our Sweet 16 $10,000 grand prize, 96 teams, $300 entry fee is a beloved tournament that we have at the Super Bowl, and it's a managed league, and people like the chance to grab that $10,000 prize and have as many as 8 shots at it. There'll be 8 12-team divisions within the league, and the best ball format we just heard from so many players that we want to play. It's just how many teams can I manage? So the best ball format, starting right after this year's NFL draft, is the way that we're going to attack that. So it'll be up on the site soon, and any of the listeners from an eligible state, we would love to have you play.
There is a best ball league that I am also signed up for that I just signed up for it, and now it's down to 3 teams left with the $39 Draft Master going on at the KFFSC. Excited for that to fill. If you want to join that or any of the main event leagues, both in Northern Kentucky and Louisville, or any of the online leagues that are going on right now, if you want to play online, KFFSC.com. KFFSC.com is where to go, and be looking out for that best ball Sweet 16 that is going to be going off here shortly. KFFSC.com is where to go. Ferrell, as always, love our time here hanging out with you on a Friday night talking fantasy football. I would have liked to talk more Raiders tonight. It didn't happen. Maybe next week. We'll see what
I got them into the conversation.
Well, you did. You weaved it in for sure.
We'll get to Geno Smith. Now, everybody wants to talk about Geno.
Oh, I do. Geno Smith's impact on Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers. This is something that we will talk about going forward here as we are less than 3 weeks away from the NFL draft.
Maybe they can get Josh Jacobs back, considering you no longer appreciate him.
Yeah. Well, the Packers didn't go out and get a number 1 receiver for Josh Jacobs' request. Maybe he can go back to Las Vegas, and the Packers can double tap running back here and get Omarion Hampton, Marshawn Lloyd, and RJ Harvey or something like that.
I just challenge any of the other 31 teams in the NFL to go draft them 100-plus catch tight end this year.
That's a great point. Great point. Ferrell, be good. We'll talk with you next Friday, man.
See you, brother.
That is Ferrell Elliott, ladies and gentlemen, hanging out tonight on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Check him out and his leagues out. KFFSC.com is where to go for that. Once again, KFFSC.com. That will conclude tonight's show. I want to thank Kyle Pollock, Ferrell Elliott, the FFPC, our producer, and mutual friend Rob, and of course our audio engineer Bryce, and you for streaming, downloading, however you're ingesting this content. We appreciate you. In case you missed last night's High Stakes Fantasy Football show on the Better Sports Network, you can watch it on any of the FFPC socials, as well as the Better Sports Network and the BSN socials as well. I had on Matt Donnelly from Fantasy Points and Rotoballer, a fun show. Anytime that dude hops aboard one of my shows, it's going to be good, and it was great last night. Next Thursday, we will be welcoming on Dynasty League Football's Brandon Hay on the Better Sports Network, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Thursday night Eastern time. We will have him on with a lot of analysis on what you should be doing with your Dynasty Leagues right now in the FFPC. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour will return next Friday with our good buddy, longtime FFPC player, and a guy who's no stranger to the airwaves of the HSFF Hour, Chuck Root, who won $500,000 with the FFPC less than 3 years ago. He will be our guest next week. That is going to be a fun show. You don't want to miss it. In case you missed the Tuesday night RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, it was a fun show with Jay Utronki, who has won 15 FFPC Dynasty Leagues. He gave us some insight on how he manages his Dino teams, as well as what he's doing this year specifically to try to make sure that he cashes in on a bunch of Dynasty League championships with the FFPC. You can rewatch that on any of the FFPC socials or the RotoViz podcast channel as well. the FFPC Never Too Early Best Ball and Never Too Early Superflex Best Ball tournaments going on at myffpc.com. $40,000, $10,000 grand prizes, respectively. Those drafts will conclude on April 24th. So you only have less than 3 weeks to join those leagues to make sure that you can cash in on a 5-figure grand prize here in April, which is insane. The FFPC Dynasty Orphan Leagues are available at myffpc.com. They normally range, entry fees go from $77 up to $5,000. Right now, you can get in at a lot less price than that, or a lot, whatever it is, $1, $2, $5 prices for some of these Dynasty Orphan teams. And you can carry those all the way to a Dynasty Championship in 2025. 1,800 plus leagues over the last 15 years in the FFPC. None have ever folded. No Dynasty leagues have ever folded under the FFPC's watch. So, if you're signing up for one of these leagues, you are in it for the long haul. And it is, to borrow a line from Terry Hatcher on Seinfeld, they are spectacular. MyFFPC.com is where to go for that. The Big Gorilla Tournament, we have had live and slow drafts going off for that. $1 million grand prize, $50 discount on every third team you sign up for. Drafts going both live and slow right now at myffpc.com. The Early Rampage tournament is going on. So basically, you sign up for the Big Gorilla, you're already automatically entered into the Early Rampage tournament. So you're getting 2 tournaments for the price of 1 entry fee right now, which is awesome. 7 Bananas promo is live right now. A lot of people have been cashing in on that. $125 best ball tournament entries for free. A lot of people have gotten those. We've given away a main event team for free in the 7 Bananas promo as well. Check that out at myffpc.com. Trust me, if you want to normally wait for joining this tournament later on in the season, this is not the year to do that. You want to be joining early and joining often. myffpc.com is where to go for that. Remember to like this video, comment on this video, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, share with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which will be next Thursday with Brandon Hay from Dynasty League Football for the Better Sports Network's High Stakes Fantasy Football Show. And then next Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern, Friday night, me, Ferrell, and Chuck Root hanging out, talking Dynasty Fantasy Football as we are going hard into the NFL draft, which is coming up in less than 3 weeks. Thanks for watching, everybody. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
I do want to remind everybody that the $39 best ball league that I'm in with KFFSC, there is only 3 teams left to go in that. KFFSC.com is where to go. And I would encourage you to join that if for no other reason than as an employee of the FFPC. I can't play in the FFPC, but I can play in the KFFSC, and there are 3 teams left in that. And I would love to continue drafting here. So sign up for that at KFFSC.com. It'll be a blast. We'll talk about it on the show as well. Just 3 teams to go. You could be the hero. KFFSC.com. And after you sign up for that, or maybe perhaps before you sign up for that, check out everything going on at myffpc.com. Dynasty Orphans, Never Too Early tournaments, the Big Gorilla, everything going on there. I know it's April 4th, but there's no excuse for you not to be immersed in fantasy football drafting action, which is, quite frankly, the most fun part of fantasy football is drafting. So check that out. KFFSC.com, myffpc.com. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks so much for tuning in tonight. I'll talk with you on Thursday night, and then, of course, on this show on Friday night at the FFPC socials. Be good, everybody, and we'll see you next week.